Hey everybody, this is Phil from Zade Comics, the writer of the upcoming graphic novel set to launch in August on Indiegogo called Magic Cop, and I am just one half of the two best looking brothers in all of comics, and today we're doing another comic review, one that I'm excited about. But first I want you guys to take a look at our handles on Twitter. Go follow us if you guys would like. We put some awesome pictures up today of our small comic. We're doing like a short story ash can for Magic Cop, just to preview our writing and art for all of you guys. We're going to put it up online at the beginning of May, so you guys could read that. And we just announced that we're working with a colorist, a guy by the name of Eugene in Moldova, and his handle is Vegas Day Real on Twitter, so follow him. He does colors for a bunch of great indie comics, and we finally landed him for Magic Cop, and I think his colors just embody what we want to be showing you guys for the 1980s goodness and all of the magic and the crazy cool crime in the world that we're building. But let's get into this comic review. It's been a highly acclaimed comic out by Jeff Johns and Gary Frank. So let's switch it over here, take a look at it. It is issue 9 of DoomsDay Clock. Now if you guys don't, if you are not familiar with what the DoomsDay Clock is, if you remember The Watchmen from the 80s, which if you're a comic fan, of course you do. I think the film came out around like 2010 or so, which I loved. But yeah, it's basically taking the characters of Vertigo's Watchmen, Alan Moore's Watchmen, and putting them into the main universe of DC, and Jeff Johns is in charge of this. So he's the writer. And if you guys don't know who Jeff Johns is, I mean, then you haven't read some great stories in DC in the past, 15 years. He's had a hand in a lot of things. He changed the Green Lanterns forever with the Brightest Day stuff. Right now he's on this book and Shazam, which he's killing it on Shazam. I love what he's doing with the Marvel family. And I think he did the New 52 Aquaman, and he did the button for the beginning of Rebirth. I mean, the man is a writing machine. He had hands in the Titans show on DC Universe, and he's on as an executive producer on Doom Patrol also. So he's killing it, and he's living the dream over there. But let's get straight into this. In the first page, we see Jeff mirroring basically a scene from The Watchmen where Dr. Manhattan is on Mars contemplating his life and time and how time moves. And right now he's looking at what looks to be a Legion ring, and he's talking about his future. And there seems to be an interference that he can't see clearly in the future. And it says right here, the last thing he sees is Superman in rage, his cape torn, his hands stained with blood, and he stands on Mars, unable to answer but a single question. Does Superman destroy me, or do I destroy everything? And we go straight into the next page, a cinematic splash page of these jets and spacecrafts from Earth flying through the abyss, and we just see Crisis. It's very, very cinematic. And when I read this, I'm like, wow, what's going on here? Right away, we get glimpses into each ship. We got some awesome characters, and I love when you just have panels of characters, because you know that the artist must have had a ton of fun drawing these characters. I mean, you got Big Barda, Mr. Miracle, Hawkman, Hawkgirl, the Green Lanterns, and I think that's Wonder Girl, Cyborg, and the main Justice League here, Martian Manhunter, Aquaman, Flash. And this is even cool. I mean, the Metal Men, Steel, Justice League Dark here, with Zatanna. I think those little legs are of, I don't actually know. I don't know. Maybe Blue Devil. But this last panel, the Doom Patrol. I mean, I'm loving the show, and I'm a huge fan of Grant Morrison's run in the 80s on Doom Patrol, as everyone should be. I guess need to read the Doom Patrol. And we got the Chief, Rita, we got Tracy Jane, Negative Man. We even got Flex Metallo in the background, and Robot Man, who we'll see getting beat up later. But we just go on the Bat family, Shazam, the Marvel family, and this last panel, I just figured out why these characters are together. These are the old Charleston comic characters who DC bought from a comic company called the Charleston Comics, and these are actually the characters that Alan Moore wanted to use to make Watchmen out of, instead of and then he was not able to, so he made Rorschach based on the Question. He made Night Owl based on Blue Beetle, and instead of Dr. Manhattan, it was Captain Atom. And I forget the young lady's name there. I'm guessing it's Silk Spectre is based on her, but I think that's Nightshade or something like that. Pop that down in the comments if you guys remember who that is, but that's an awesome homage to Alan Moore's Watchmen right there. And then we get a little scene from the wreckage of what happened in Russia. So the last issue, there was a big dispute in Russia where the Americans were accusing some metahumans to be colluding with the Russians, kind of a reflection of what happened in recent years. And we actually saw Putin, which I thought was pretty cool, and Superman intervened, and seemingly Firestorm was there and just blew up for no reason. And this whole issue is about the heroes have tracked the source of where the detonation of Firestorm had happened, and it came from Mars. So as we see here, Superman, hurt from that big explosion, is recovering in the Hall of Justice. A bunch of news people around the hall. So now we cut to the White House. We have a assistant to the president imploring the president to take a stand on what happened in Russia and on if we are with Firestorm or denouncing Firestorm, basically. Now I want to do a little sidebar here because we never see the president. And since this is a period piece for our period, I'm saying it's solidified in basically 2018, 2019, we have the president. Trump is president right now, and they never say his name, they never show him, but Jeff really conveys it with the use of the word huge. It's a huge thing, what we're asking, huge. Now, I don't think that sounds good. I mean, the way that Jeff is writing this dialogue here, it sounds fumbly and it sticks out a lot. So I think he's jabbing it into our ears that it is true. I want to know whose decision it was not to put his face in the comic and not to use his name, because Vladimir Putin was in the comic. I mean, it looked exactly like him. And I think if you're trying to make a comic book that is reflecting in Watchmen is so political and is so in the time that it was set in, that it used Nixon, it used the faces of political figures, and I think it's doing the art a disservice, specifically not reflecting this. And I wonder if it was DC made the call because they don't want to be associated because there's a bunch of controversy, or if it was Jeff. I mean, it's understandable. I think they should have just went full force into it and embraced it. So the president does go on air and makes a statement. He denounces Firestorm. Now this is we're going to get into. This is not from the comic, but I wanted to bring this up because an awesome character is about to pop up in the comic of the name of Guy Gardner. He's a Green Lantern character that was created in the late 60s, but really grew into his own under the writing prowess of Keith Giffen in the 80s under a title called Justice League, which then later was retitled Justice League International, which was a group of like this motley crew, ragtag group of heroes from the Justice League, and Guy Gardner was like the standout lantern in that group. He's a hothead, as you can see by this cover here, and he doesn't take guff from nobody, and he's incredibly human. I mean, always thought his vest was cool, but his haircut was dumb. But it's totally within his character just to keep that haircut because that's what he likes and he doesn't want to hear anything about it. That's who this character is. And in fact, the only thing that, one of the notable things about Guy Gardner, as you can see on this cover, it's subtitled Batman vs. Guy Gardner Showdown. And I thought I want to add that in the corner here as a little ad for Watchmen, which is pretty cool because Watchmen was coming out while this issue came out. The only notable, the big notable thing about Guy Gardner is he gets laid out with one punch by Batman. Solidifying Batman is a big badass that doesn't care if you have a power ring. He's just going to sock you in the face for running your mouth. And Blue Beetle just laughing out loud right there. So that's what you need to know about Guy Gardner. He's a hothead. And here we go with Guy Gardner. The Green Lanterns are the first to come out of their planes to the surface of Mars. And I think that the reason because they could breathe. We'll see that later. But Guy Gardner, I read some articles and there was one headline that said, in Doomsday Clock 9, Guy Gardner has never been written more Guy Gardner. Like this is the epitome of his character. And I want to show you why, because they come out to the surface of Mars and they're trying to find who's responsible for this big catastrophe that happened in Russia because they tracked the energy signature here. I think this is Hal. Yeah, Hal says, "We don't know who or what we're up against, Guy. Well, we know one thing about him. Besides his not being a fan of Superman, what's that? He likes checkers." And then Jessica Cruz says, "Why do we assume it's a he?" And that pisses Guy off. Not this again, girl. And hey, I say the villain's a woman. You'll get mad at that. You'll get mad for that. Look at this photograph. Who is that? And she's picking up the, of course, famous photograph from Watchmen of John and his wife, his ex-wife. And Hal goes, "Everyone, our rings have located a structure of some kind up ahead. His base, if anything, or hers," as Guy says. And then Jessica yells at it, "Cram it, Guy," or "Cram it, Gardner." It's so much of Guy's character to get pissed off at Jessica Cruz for like twisting his words around because it's not equal opportunity for the women. And I just love that Jeff picked Guy and Jessica to have that little quarrel between each other, because Guy's not going to take any guff of you twisting his words around. And Jessica's this, powerful Green Lantern chick. I think it's super ironic that Jessica Cruz is a character created by Ethan Van Sciver, and they're in this kind of verbal quarrel over technicalities in verbiage. I just thought that was awesome, and Guy standing his ground with that, totally showing off his character. So here we have Robbie and Professor Stein, who are the two parts of Firestorm. When they come together and they turn into Firestorm, they were actually kind of kidnapped and taken to Mars to help everybody figure out what is going on with Firestorm, what happened in Russia, and stuff like that. Robbie wants to help them, but Professor Stein doesn't. They see, of course, Dr. Manhattan's big glass structure, and Robbie decides to help, even though Professor Stein doesn't want to. He turns into Firestorm and goes out and helps them. All the while, Lex Luthor is come to check up on Superman, and Lois is freaked out by that. I really wanted to highlight this because this was pretty cool that you could see that these Green Lanterns are so powerful. They put a big lantern bubble around the whole planet of Mars as Martian Manhunter sees that they are approaching. And another cool thing is, because Firestorm, and not a lot of people that are into DC Comics, they think he's just like a firebender or whatever, but he's actually can manipulate molecules and transmutate anything into anything else. So he makes a breathable atmosphere for everybody so they can come out of their ships. We get an awesome shot of the Question talking about conspiracies, as he often did in the Justice League animated series. And then we have the confrontation of the League of Earth's Heroes and Dr. Manhattan here. John's, of course, leading the pack, and asking why he's done this. Of course, Martian Manhunter can read his mind, but Guy has to be the badass, and he explains to Dr. Manhattan that he shouldn't mess with Earth's heroes because they've been up against gods, they've been up against universe eaters, Doomsday, the Sinestro Corps, taking them all down, Brainiac. And even though they get knocked down, there's going to be more of them to keep fighting back until they win and until they save the universe, like they've done hundreds and hundreds of times. And basically, Martian Manhunter is like... Martian Manhunter can see what Dr. Manhattan is thinking, and he says on the last page, in a few moments you're going to show everybody here what the vision in my head is seeing. And that vision is basically that Superman's going to die and he's going to destroy the universe along with him. Everybody freaks out, gets really pissed off, and Guy socks him right in the face. And look at that neck, looks like it's breaking. And he's like, wow, that was really easy. I didn't mean to kill him, but we all know Dr. Manhattan is never dead. So he just wrecks Guy Gardner. And it's really cool how Dr. Manhattan views the universe. And in this comic, you get to see a different side of him, because in Watchmen, he was a god, and he knew everything about his universe. And seemingly that's why he came to the DC universe, to learn new things. And basically, he takes the ring off of Guy's hand, rendering him a basic human, and he's reverse engineering the power of the Lantern Ring. At this point, the Justice League Dark step in, Etrigan with Hellfire, Zatanna with Magic Blast, and he doesn't understand it at first, but he starts sucking it into his hand, basically saying that magic is the scraps of the creation of the world, the leftover bits and pieces of the things that were never made, like random errors in a computer code. He harnesses it and understands that it's magic and blasts everyone away. And I love that he says it feels good to still learn, because Dr. Manhattan, again, a god, someone that knows everything, coming to a new plane of existence and learning so much that he never had in his own world. And now seemingly a master of magic, destroying these heroes, sucking up all their energies and just blasting them back out. A Robot Man and Flex Metallo getting destroyed. And at this point, he basically puts Robbie in this illusion. It's a flashback to the day he was made into Firestorm. And we see Professor Stein here. Robbie is now overhearing him having a conversation on the phone, that he is going to invite Robbie here and make an experiment and accidentally, in quotes, turn them into superheroes, because Professor Stein thinks that the world needs more superheroes. And Robbie doesn't want to believe it. He goes crazy, and this is when all the heroes gang up on Manhattan. And you get a super cool shot of Captain Atom, who I wish was utilized more, but this awesome line where, forget Superman, Captain Atom's the last thing you'll ever see, and just rips Manhattan to shreds, causing this big nuke as Wonder Woman is talking at the UN. And basically there's no superheroes on Earth anymore. It's just Wonder Woman. And on the second to last page, we see Dr. Manhattan putting himself back together again and destroying the heroes of Earth. As on the last page, we have some villains here that we thought were safe on Kondak, being peaceful, but they're here to take over since all the heroes are gone. And that's how that comic ends. It's a super fun, action-packed comic that is a great follow-up to the last sequel. I thought there was some pretty funny humor there that Jeff Johns snuck in with Guy Gardner and Jessica Cruz. The duality of those two characters making for some good laughs. And if you guys want me to talk about the previous issues or any of the next Doomsday Clock issues, let me know. Send me a like. Subscribe down there so we can get up to 50 subscriptions, so we can get our own URL, Zaid Comics URL. And yeah, I'm going to try to do these reviews about twice a week. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Send us a follow on Twitter, and we'll catch you next time.